Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast, Halloween edition, October 31st, 2022. We'll recap the NFL Week 8 games from the weekend and look ahead to tonight's games. College football Week 9. We have World Series to talk about, the Major League Soccer Conference Finals, NBA, NHL, golf, NASCAR, NFL trade deadline talk, news and notes, and best bet of the day. We'll start with the NFL Week 8 results. An interesting Week 8, to say the least, from yesterday. And we will look ahead to tonight's game between the Bengals and the Browns. From London, Broncos over to Jaguars 21-17. Denver's 3-5. Jacksonville is 2-6. Russell Wilson, 18 of 30, 252 yards, a touchdown, a pick. And Trevor Lawrence, 18 of 31, 133 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. Falcons over the Panthers, 37-34 in overtime. Atlanta's 4-4, Carolina's 2-6. Marcus Mariota, 20 of 28, 253 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. And P.J. Walker, 19 of 36, 317 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Cowboys over the Bears, 49-29. 49-29. Dallas is 6-2. Chicago is 3-5. Dak Prescott, 21 of 27, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And Justin Fields, 17 of 23, 151 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Dolphins over the Lions, 31-27. Miami 5-3. Detroit 1-6. Tua Tagovailoa, 29 of 36, 382 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Jared Goff, 27 of 37, 321 yards, and a touchdown. Vikings over the Cardinals, 34-26. Vikings 6-1. Cardinals 3-5. Kirk Cousins, 24 of 36, 232 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Kyler Murray, 31 of 44, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Saints over the Raiders, 24-0. New Orleans is 3-5. Las Vegas is 2-5. Andy Dalton, 22 of 30, 220 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Derek Carr was awful. 15 of 26, 101 yards, and a pick. And then Jared Stidham came in 8 of 13, 72 yards there in the fourth quarter. Pats over the Jets, 22-17. Pats 4-4, Jets 5-3. Mac Jones, 24 of 35, 194 yards, touchdown, a pick. And Zach Wilson was just awful. 20 of 41, 355 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. Eagles over the Steelers, 35-13. The Eagles 7-0, Pittsburgh 2-6. Jalen Hurts, 19 of 28, 285 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And Kenny Pickett, 25 of 38, 191 yards, and a pick. Titans over the Texans, 17-10. Titans 5-2, and Texans 1-5-1. Malik Willis, 6 of 10, 55 yards, and a pick. And on the ground, 5 for 12. This was Derrick Henry by himself, 32 of 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was just so good. And Davis Mills, 17 of 29, 152 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Commanders over the Colts, 17-16. Commanders 4-4. Indy 3-4-1. Taylor Heineke, 23 of 31, 279 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. And Sam Ehlinger, 17 of 23, 201 yards. Niners over the Rams, 31-14. Niners 4-4. Rams 3-4. Jimmy Garoppolo, 21 of 25, 235 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Matt Stafford, 22 of 33, 187 yards, and a touchdown. Seahawks over the Giants, 27-13. Seahawks 5-3. Giants dropped to 6-2. Geno Smith, 23 of 34, 212 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Daniel Jones, 17 of 31, 176 yards. And the Bills over the Packers, 27-17. Bills 6-1. Green Bay 3-5. Josh Allen, 13 of 25, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. And Aaron Rodgers, 19 of 30, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. All right. Now tonight, 8:15 ESPN, you have the Bengals and the Browns on Monday Night Football. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman on the call. Should be a great division game. The Bengals are giving 3.5. Total is 45.5. I absolutely love the Bengals here. This line is low because it's make or break time, do or die for the Browns. And they can't afford to lose this game. Tomorrow's show, I'm going to do cross-offs and in the power rankings because we're at that point into November. Because no one's really a cross-off in October, especially in a weird year like this. But even though Jamar Chase is out, it's a must-win for the Browns, so I get the logic of everybody picking the Browns here. But I'm going the other way. I love Cincinnati, minus the 3.5. That's minus 104. They have the better quarterback, less injuries, and just a better team. So give me the Bengals minus the 3.5 against Cleveland. All right, now we'll move on to college football. We will go over the results from the weekend, which were very interesting. Florida's college football is always interesting. We'll begin with Friday. East Carolina over BYU 27-24. ECU 6-3. BYU 4-5. FIU over Louisiana Tech 42-34 in double overtime. So best bet from Friday came through. FIU's 4-4. Louisiana Tech is 2-6. Saturday, number 2 Ohio State over number 13 Penn State 44-31. Ohio State 8-0. Penn State 6-2. Number 7 TCU over West Virginia 41-31. TCU 8-0. West Virginia 3-5. Notre Dame over number 16 Syracuse 41-24. Notre Dame 5-3. Syracuse 6-2. Arkansas over Auburn 41-27. Arkansas 5-3. Auburn 3-5. Oklahoma over Iowa State 27-13. Oklahoma 5-3. Iowa State 3-5. UConn over Boston College 13-3. UConn 4-5. BC 2-6. Florida State over Georgia Tech 41-16. Florida State 5-3. Georgia Tech 3-5. Houston over South Florida 42-27. Houston 5-3. USF 1-7. Toledo over Eastern Michigan 27-24. Toledo 6-3. EMU 5-4. Miami of Ohio over Akron 27-9. Miami 4-5. Akron 1-8. Miami over Virginia 14-12 in quadruple overtime. Miami 4-4. Virginia 3-5. Charlotte over Rice 56-23. Charlotte 2-7. Rice 4-4. Minnesota over Rutgers 31-0. Minnesota 5-3. Rutgers 4-4. Georgia State over Old Dominion 31-17. Georgia State 3-5. Old Dominion 3-5. Number 1 Georgia over Florida 42-20. Georgia 8-0. Florida 4-4. Number 8 Oregon over Cal 42-24. Oregon 7-1. Cal 3-5. Number 22 Kansas State over number 9 Oklahoma State 48-0. Kansas State 6-2. Oklahoma State 6-2. Louisville over number 10 Wake 48-21. Louisville 5-3. Wake 6-2. Number 17 Illinois over Nebraska 26-9. Illinois 7-1. Nebraska 3-9 or 3-5. My bad. UCF over number 20 Cincinnati 25-21. UCF 6-2. Cincinnati 6-2. Iowa over Northwestern 33-13. Iowa 4-4. Northwestern 1-7. Mexico State over UMass 23-13. New Mexico State 3-5. UMass 1-7. Navy over Temple 27-20 in overtime. Navy 3-5. Temple 2-6. SMU over Tulsa 45-34. SMU 4-4. Tulsa 3-5. App State over Robert Morris 42-3. App State 5-3. Robert Morris 0-8. North Texas over Western Kentucky 40-13. North Texas 5-4. Western Kentucky 5-4. Missouri over number 25 South Carolina 23-10. Missouri 4-4 at South Carolina 5-3. South Alabama over Arkansas State 31-3. South Alabama 6-2. Arkansas State 2-7. Number 3 Tennessee over number 19 Kentucky 44-6. Tennessee 8-0. Kentucky 5-3. Number 10 USC over Arizona 45-37. SC 7-1. Arizona 3-5. Boise State over Colorado State 49-10. Boise 6-2. Colorado State 2-6. Coastal Carolina over Marshall 24-13. Coastal 7-1. Marshall 4-4. FAU over UAB 24-17. FAU 4-5. UAB 4-4. Number 4 Michigan over Michigan State 29-7. Michigan 8-0. Michigan State 3-5. Number 15 Ole Miss over Texas A&M 31-28. Ole Miss 8-1. A&M 3-5. Arizona State over Colorado 42-34. Zona State 3-5. Colorado 1-7. Baylor over Texas Tech 45-17. Baylor 5-3. Texas Tech 4-4. Number 21 North Carolina over Pitt 42-24. UNC 7-1. Pitt 4-4. Middle Tennessee over UTEP 24-13. Middle 4-4. UTEP 4-5. Number 12 UCLA over Stanford 38-13. UCLA 7-1. Stanford 3-5. Fresno State over San Diego State 32-28. Fresno 4-4. San Diego State 4-4. San Jose State over Nevada, 35-28. San Jose State 5-2, Nevada 2-7, and Wyoming over Hawaii, 27-20. Wyoming 6-3, Hawaii 2-7. All right, now I'll move on to the World Series. We'll go over games 1 and 2 and make a pick for game number 3. So Friday night was game 1 as the Phillies come back from 5-0 down to win 6-5 in 10 innings to take a 1-0 series lead. So Anthony Dominguez the win, Luis Garcia the loss, and David Robertson the save. Aaron Nola 4 1/3, 6 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. And Justin Verlander just collapsed. 5 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And then Saturday, the Astros defeat the Phillies 5-2 to even up the series at 1 apiece. Framber Valdez the win, Zach Wheeler the loss. Framber Valdez 6 1/3 innings, 4 hits and a run, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts. He was excellent. And Zach Wheeler 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. All right, and now tonight on Halloween night on Fox at 8 o'clock, you have the Astros and the Phillies, game number 3 from Philadelphia. It's going to be red, and it's going to be a spooky crowd, I think, in Philadelphia. A lot of people in costumes. This is how it is down there in Philly. The Astros are favored. It's -136. The Phillies are +114. Over under 8. Overs -105. Unders -115. Astros -1.5 is +122. Phillies +1.5 is -146. It's Lance McCullers. It's Noah Syndergaard. This is a tough one for me, the pick and project. But I really like over 4.5 first half total runs at +106. I don't trust Noah Syndergaard in this spot. I think the Phillies made too big of a gamble going with Ranger Suarez out of the bullpen in game 1, but it ended up working out for them, so you can't fault them. But I think this is where that move could bite them a little bit. So I like over first half total runs, 4.5 at +106. I think at gunpoint, I think Houston probably wins this game as well to take a 2-1 series lead. All right, the Major League Soccer playoffs. We'll go over the results from Sunday. So first was the Western Final. LAFC over Austin 3-0 as LAFC goes to their first ever Cup Final. This was a scoreless game until the 29th minute when Christian Arango scores to give LAFC a 1-0 lead. Second half, an own goal by Maximiliano Urruti in the 62nd minute to put LAFC up 2-0. And then in the 81st minute to put the game away, Kwadwo Opoku in the 81st minute to give LAFC a 3-0 lead, and they don't look back as they go to their first ever Cup Final. And they will host the Philadelphia Union, who come out 3-1 winners over NYC FC. Scoreless game in the second half, and then the second half was wild. Maxi Morales actually scores for NYCFC to give them a brief, it felt brief, it really wasn't that brief, 1-0 lead in the 57th minute. 8 minutes later, Julian Carranza in the 65th minute, the equalizer, 1 apiece. And then 2 minutes later, Daniel Gazdag puts Philly up 2-1, and then Corey Burke puts the game away in the 76th minute to put Philly up 3-1 as they will go to LA on Saturday to face LAFC. We will preview and pick the winner of that game on the Friday podcast. All right, now I'll move on to the NBA from the weekend. Interesting weekend in the association, and we'll look ahead to the games being played tonight. Friday, Hawks over the Pistons 136-112, Magic over the Hornets 113-93, Cavs over the Celtics 132-123 in overtime, Sixers over the Raptors 112-90, Pacers over the Wizards 127-117, Bucks over the Knicks 119-108, Timberwolves over the Lakers 111-102, Spurs over the Bulls 129-124, Nuggets over the Jets 117-101. Blazers over the Rockets 125-111. And the Suns over the Pelicans 124-111. Saturday, Kings over the Heat 119-113. Hornets over the Warriors 120-113 in overtime. Pacers over the Nets 125-116. Sixers over the Bulls 114-109. Bucks over the Hawks 123-115. Thunder over the Mavs 117-111 in overtime. And the Jazz over the Grizzlies 124-123. Sunday, Pelicans over the Clippers 112-91. Celtics over the Wizards 112-94. Cavs over the Knicks 121-108. Pistons over the Warriors 128-114. Spurs over the Timberwolves 107-98. Mavs over the Magic 114-105. Suns over the Rockets 124-109. And the Lakers get their first win over the Nuggets 121-110. 7 o'clock, you have the Kings and the Hornets from Charlotte. No LaMelo Ball still. Sacramento's giving 2.5, totals 231.5. I'm going to lay the points of Sacramento. They need the game, I think, or else things could spiral for them. So I'm going to lay the 2.5 with Sacramento against the Hornets. Sixers, Wizards. Sixers are giving 5.5, total to 16.5. And by the way, my projection for Kings Hornets, I have Sacramento 6.5, total 231. And then for the Sixers, Wiz, I'm going to lay to 5.5 with Philly. I project 8 and 218 and 3/10. 7:30 NBA TV. You have the Pacers and the Nets from Brooklyn again. Brooklyn's an 8.5-point favorite. Total 236.5. I project 13.5 and 231 and 3/5. This is a tough one, but I'm going to lay the points of Brooklyn. I don't feel good about it. Hawks, Raptors. Raptors are a 4-point favorite. Total 223.5. I project 4 and 220 and 3/4. I like the under. 8 o'clock, the Pistons and the Bucks from Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a 13-point favorite. Total 224. Rare instance where I like the dog. I think Detroit can cover, so I get Detroit plus a 13 against Milwaukee. I project 9.5 and 213 and 3/20. Grizzlies, Jazz at 9. Grizzlies are 3.5-point favorites. Total 231.5. Give me Memphis minus 3.5. I project 8 and 229 and 3/4. And last but not least, 10:30, the Rockets and the Clippers. The Clippers home opener, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no. Their home opener was last Sunday against the Suns. They're 0-2 at home. I feel like they really haven't had any home games. Yeah, it's their third home game. That's my mistake. So the Clippers are favored by 9.5, total to 24. I project 7 3/4, total to 21. And on the 20th, so I'll give you the under. No Kawhi. I like the under. All right, NHL. We'll go over the games from the weekend and go over the games that are being played tonight. So Friday, Golden Knights over the Ducks 4-0. Islanders over the Hurricanes 6-2. Bruins over the Blue Jackets 4-0. Devils over the Avs 1-0. Canucks over the Penguins 5-1. And the Jets over the Coyotes 3-2 in overtime on a game winner by Blake Wheeler. Saturday, Rangers over the Stars 6-3. Panthers over the Sens 5-3. Lightning over the Sharks 4-3. Sabres over the Blackhawks 4-3 in OT on a game winner by Victor Olofsson. Red Wings over the Wild 2-1. Kings over the Leafs 4-2. Hurricanes over the Flyers 4-3 in OT on a game winner by Brent Burns. Canadians over the Blues 7-4. Islanders over the Avs 5-4. Caps over the Preds 3-0. Oilers over the Flames 3-2. And the Kraken over the Penguins 3-1. Sunday, Devils over the Blue Jackets 7-1. Wild over the Blackhawks 4-3 in a shootout. Ducks over the Maple Leafs 4-3 in OT on a game winner by Trevor Zegras. Rangers over the Coyotes 3-2, and the Golden Knights over the Jets 2-1 in overtime on a game winner by Jack Eichel. All right, only 3 games tonight. 7 o'clock, you have the Red Wings at the Sabres. Interesting game. The The Sabres are minus 150. Detroit's plus 125. Over under 6.5. Over is minus 120. Under is minus 102. Detroit plus 1.5 is minus 194. Sabres minus 1.5 is plus 156. Both teams have 10 points. I don't think Buffalo should be this big of a favorite. But I like the draw at plus 340, the tie. So this is betting on the game to go to overtime. So I'm going to do that here. NHL Network, Capitals, Hurricanes. Canes minus 188. Caps plus 155. Over under 6. Over is minus 114. Under is minus 108. Caps plus 1.5 is minus 164. Canes minus 1.5 is plus 134. Canes can score with anybody. I like the over. And then 8 o'clock, you have the Kings and the Blues from St. Louis. The Blues are minus 120. The Kings are even money over under 6, minus 110 HY. Kings plus 1.5 is minus 245. Blues minus 1.5 is plus 194. I like the under in this game. I feel like there's going to be not a lot of goals in this game. All right, now I'll move on to golf. We will go over the results from the Bermuda Championship. And your winner with a score of 19 under, Seamus Power. Second with 18 under, Thomas Dietrich. Tied for third with 17 under, Patrick Rogers, Ben Griffin, and Chunon Yu. Tied for sixth with 16 under, Dylan McCarthy, Aaron Baddeley, Justin Lauer, and Max McGreevy. 10th with 14 under, Harrison Endicott. Tied for 11th with 13 under, Dylan Lingworth, Sean O'Hare, Brandon Gay, Nate Watney, Alex Smalley, and Grayson Sieg. Tied for 17th with 12 under, Jason Hadley, Akshay Bahita, Andrew Novak, Byung-Hun An, Fabian Gomez, and Sechung Du. Tied for 23rd with 11 under, Austin Smotherman, Nate Hardy, Nate Taylor, Richie Rensky, Robbie Shelton, and Nico Echeverria. Tied for 29th with 10 under, Grayson Higo, MJ Daffey, Adam Schenk, Charlie Hoffman, Robert Strab, Scott Harrington. Tied for 35th with 9 under, Nate Lashley, Cam Piercy, Brandon Wu, Evan Van Royen, Sangil No, Will Gordon, Jonathan Bird, John Vanderlaan, and Brent Grant. Tied for 44th with 8 under, Cheng Pan, Austin Cook, Adam Long, Tyson Alexander, Aston Lizo Goya, Russell Knox is tied for 49th with 7 under, along with Dylan Wu, Ben Crane, Ben Martin, and Arjun Otwal. Tied for 54th with 6 under, Brian Stewart, Aaron Ray, Camilo Vegas, Patrick Knowles is tied for 57th with 5 under, along with Ben Taylor. Tied for 59th with 4 under, Trevor Werbelow and Scott Gutcheski. 61st with 3 under is Matthias Schmidt. 62nd with 2 under, Scott Brown. Tied for 63rd with 1 under, Lucas Glover and Harry Hall. And notables for the rest, tied for 65th with 1 over, Grayson Chalmers. Among those cut, Henrik Norlander, Mark Hubbard, Ryder Moore, Stefan Yeager, Matthias Schwab, Vincent Taylor, Tyler Duggan, Kevin Tway, Joseph Brumlett, Sam Ryder, Chris Stroud, Martin Trader, Bo Van Pelt, Harry Higgs, Scott Piercy, Kramer Hickok, Callum Tarrant, Hank Lebioda, Doug Gibb, Cam Young, Wesley Bryant, Bryce Garnett, DJ Tran, Lucas Donald, Michael Giljic, and withdrawing Tommy Gainey. Next tournament is the OHL Classic, which is from El Chameleon Golf Club in Mexico. So that should be an interesting tournament. All right, now move on to NASCAR. It was a big race. Big races, I should say, but the Cup Series was a big one. We'll start with Xfinity, though. For Martinsville, your winner, Ty Gibbs, coming in second, Sheldon Creed, third, Riley Herbst, fourth, Noah Gragson, fifth, Justin Allgaier, sixth, Sam Myers, seventh, Nick Sanchez, eighth, Daniel Hemrick, ninth, Austin Hill, 10th, Blaine Perkins. The rest, Chad Burton, Raja Caruth, Alex Lab, Myatt Snyder, Derek Griffith, AJ Allmendinger, Jeremy Clements, Sammy Smith, Brandon Brown, Josh Berry, Anthony Alfredo, Josh Williams, Brandon Jones, who was my pick, CJ McLaughlin, Mason Massey, Chris Wright, Joe Graff Jr., Haley DeSavino, Ryan Vargas, Kyle Weatherman, Stephon Parsons, Patrick Emmerling, Ryan Sieg, JJ Yuli, Matt Mills, Chad Fincham, Landon Castle, and Bailey Curry. And then the Cup Series. Your winner from the Xfinity 500 from Martinsville, Chris Bell, coming in second, Kyle Larson third, Ryan Blaney fourth, Ross Chasen fifth, Denny Hamlin sixth, Joey Logano seventh, William Byron eighth, Bubba Wallace ninth, Chase Briscoe 10th, Chase Elliott 11th, Harrison Burton 12th, Daniel Suarez 13th, Todd Gilliland 14th, Cole Custer 15th, Eric Almirola 16th, Kevin Harvick 17th, Michael McDowell 8th, Eric Jones 9th, Ty Gibbs 20th, Martin Truex Jr. The rest, Corey LaJoie, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., AJ Allmendinger, Chris Boucher, Noah Gragson, Austin Cindric, Justin Haley, Cody Ware, Kyle Busch, JJ Lee, Ty Dillon, Landon Castle, Austin Dillon, BJ McLeod, Tyler Reddick, and Brad Keselowski was disqualified. He initially finished in fourth, but he was disqualified from his fourth place finish because his vehicle did not meet the minimum weight requirement in the post-race technical inspection. And NASCAR cited section 14.11.2 in the rule book. So that was brutal. And in terms of the final four left in contention for the championship, it is Joey Logano, Chris Bell, Ross Chasen, and Chase Elliott. That's your final four for the Cup Series. So Phoenix is the last race of the year. That's on Sunday. And then Xfinity Championship is Saturday. And then the Cup Championship is Friday night late, all from Phoenix. So it's weird that NASCAR's doing their finals from Phoenix. It used to be Homestead, Miami every year, but they changed it a few years ago, which is very interesting. So that's that. All right. Now I want to talk about the NFL trade deadline really quick. It's obviously coming to an end tomorrow. And I want to talk about what each team should do. And we'll go division by division. We'll start in the AFC East. Buffalo, they've been talking about running backs. They tried for Alvin Kamara, but the Saints keep denying them. They want to make that big splash. They want to upgrade at that position and be a super team to help push them over the top to win their first Super Bowl in franchise history. So there's a ton of pressure on them to make the big move for a star running back. And you know that they were interested in Christian McCaffrey, but they couldn't get that done. The Dolphins, I think, are the second best team in that division. For me, the Dolphins should look to upgrade some positions on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the front seven. I think offensive line could use some help as well. So that's two positions where they can upgrade. In terms of who could be available for them, in terms of linemen, could one of the Detroit guys be available? Could Taylor Decker? I know that's the exterior. I feel like the Dolphins need more help on the interior. So maybe somebody like the young guard on the Lions, Jackson. That would be an interesting one. Jonah Jackson. He can help them. Or I don't think the Bucks would blow it up. Cody Whitehair, is he available? I know he's hurt right now. But that would be an interesting inquiry because, the Bears are not trying this year. They traded Robert Quinn. That would have been a good addition for Miami, by the way, for their pass rush. In terms of a pass rusher, could they be in play for Bradley Chubb? That would be interesting. Now I'll move on to the Patriots. I feel like they are going to really not mess around with anything, but if they do make anything in terms of moves, it would be like a buyer's move, and the position I think should be wide receiver. Because I think that whoever's quarterbacking New England needs some help at receiver. Brandon Cooks, Jerry Jeudy, DJ Moore. I think all those guys are in play for New England. Jets, they've made their moves already. They replaced Breece Hall for at least this season with James Robinson after Hall tore his ACL. I think they could find a rental in the interior for AVT spot. But the question is, who can that be? Could it be someone like Kevin Dotson of Pittsburgh, or even Whitehair we talked about earlier, AJ Kahn of Houston? So there's some interesting options for them at the guard position for the Jets. The AFC North will start with the Ravens. To me, the obvious position is wide receiver. I feel like that's a team that could be in play for Odell Beckham Jr. I know he wouldn't be a trade deadline guy per se. I feel like he would be a free agent pickup that could help somebody. I know they just signed Deshaun Jackson, but who knows about him? So I feel like they could use Odell Beckham Jr. or maybe some of those guys I listed for wide receiver. Cincinnati, I feel like they're in the wide out market too. Unless they really feel that Chase is going to come back better than ever. Maybe they're like a Brandon Cooks team potentially. Or like maybe like a even somebody on like a lesser receiver, like the guy from the Chiefs that's now on the Bears, Pringle. I feel like Pringle would be great for Cincinnati. The Browns, I feel like they're going to end up selling. I feel like tonight's outcome will determine what direction they go. You're hearing rumors about Kareem Hunt. Maybe that's the guy the Bills settle on, but I feel like he's not what they're looking for. Kareem Hunt would have been great on the Jets, but they went with James Robinson instead. But we'll see where he goes. Maybe Denver. But I know Denver's looking to sell because they don't think they're good enough. But that would have been an interesting Bronco, Kareem Hunt. Steelers are going to sell. I've been clamoring for them to tank for a while now because that's not their year. Maybe you trade some people. Don't bring back TJ Watt. Get a high pick. Maybe a team like the Giants who wants to upgrade a quarterback, or a team like, maybe if Geno Smith falls apart in the second half of the season, a team like Seattle wants to upgrade a quarterback, and they're going to be like middle or like higher in the draft pecking order, and they trade up with Pittsburgh and get that pick, and Pittsburgh can get a haul for that pick and then just reboot around Watt and Kenny Pickett and any other potential picks you can get in trades. You're hearing Chase Claypool's name in trade rumors. Maybe would they deal somebody like Levi Wallace? Would they trade somebody like one of the linemen that I alluded to earlier? on the offensive side of the ball. So Pittsburgh has some trade options. Would they trade Trubisky? That's an interesting one. Like, who can use a backup quarterback right now? Like, if Russell Wilson is dealing with nagging injuries, I mean, Mitch Trubisky's an upgrade over Brett Ripken. I mean, the Jets, that's an upgrade over Joe Flacco. So, I'm interested to see what Pittsburgh does. To the AFC South, Tennessee, they have to look at wide receiver. Any of those, they could have been in play for the Giants as Kadarius Toney. Where were they on that one? Treylon Burks, he's hurt. So I'm interested to see where they go. Maybe AJ Green's available potentially because the Cards are loaded at receiver. Would they be in play for Brandon Cooks? But I don't think Houston would trade in division. Is DJ Chark available from the Lions? He would help them. So it's going to be interesting if the Titans potentially do something. Colts. They're like stuck in mediocrity. That's just unfortunate for that franchise. Sam Ellinger was bad. I didn't think he was any good. And all they're doing is admitting their mistake of Matt Ryan and trying to tank, it looks like. But, like, what are they going to do? I feel like they're not going to do anything. Because they have a good roster. But I just don't see them blowing it up. Their quarterback position single-handedly held them back this year. The Jaguars are going to sell, I think. But, like, where? Like, K'Lavon Chason, would they entertain moving him? Would they entertain moving Josh Allen, the pass rusher? Josh Allen, the pass rusher, would be a good fit on the Dolphins. I'd like to see him on that team. And then the Texans, I think that, obviously Brandon Cooks, like, I think the team like the Giants can use him. Green Bay, I mean, if there's pressure on Green Bay to go out and get a wide receiver, I think, more than anybody. So I think that's a potential landing spot for Brandon Cooks, New England. So it's going to be interesting to see where he could potentially go. Justin Britt, the guard. There's a couple teams I think could use upgrades at that position. Seattle, Giants, Miami. So I think the Texans would be an interesting trade partner for a couple of these teams. And then AFC West, we'll start with the Chiefs. They already made their move for Kadarius Toney. I'm trying to think of potentially other areas where they can upgrade, maybe a front seven, like in particular in the linebacker spot. Like I could see, I know they're pretty stacked there, but I could see them getting like depth pieces, like maybe Christian Harris of Houston or something like that. Chargers, they have to make a move, I think, if they want to keep trying to win because of all these injuries. You can make a case that they just need like a more depth. So maybe they're looking at like linebackers and stuff like that too. Denver, I think they could potentially buy and sell. You're hearing Jerry Jeudy and Bradley Chubb's names. But this ownership group wasn't the owners when Elway picked those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see what Denver does. And then you have the Raiders, who I think are going to sell. They're not having a good year. I think Nate Hobbs could fetch something back. I think that some guys on their offensive line could be on the move. Like, you put it past the Raiders to trade somebody like, I think they're going to keep Colton Miller. But Andre James, maybe I could see moving for them. But to me, the most likely guy on the Raiders, again, moved is Nate Hobbs, the corner. NFC East. The Eagles, they made their move for the pass rusher, Robert Quinn. And I could see them even making a move in their secondary, particularly at the safety position. Because I think that's the one position they should upgrade. I mean, would Pittsburgh trade Terrell Edmonds in state? I don't know. Would the Browns trade Grant Delpit? Would the Jets maybe say, like, okay, this might be our reality. We lose to the Patriots. Do we trade LaMarcus Joyner? Would the Bears trade Jaquan Brisker? But yeah, I think there's safeties that can help the Eagles. Dallas. I think Dallas really just showed off and out against the Bears yesterday. They looked a lot like last year's team. But if there's a position that I think they should upgrade, it's probably at cornerback. I think that Trayvon Diggs is excellent, but I could see them wanting to upgrade at that position. Jalen Johnson, I feel like, could help Dallas. Giants, it's wide receiver. We talked about it already. Could it be Brandon Cooks, DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy? Any of those 4 players would help them, but I don't know if they want to trade assets for a receiver. Like I said with the Jets, I mean, do they realize that Seattle game was a wake-up call and they're really not that good? We'll see. I feel like the Giants and the Jets are 2 interesting teams within these next 24-plus hours. And then the Commanders, what are they going to do? They're 500. Maybe I could see them trying to upgrade because they say, like, oh, we're getting Watt back. Or not Watt, Chase Young back. And we're getting offensive linemen back. So do they go out and try to upgrade their secondary? So some names I mentioned earlier for secondary. I said Jalen Johnson from the Bears. I could see even somebody like Cam Sutton of Pittsburgh, Mike Hughes of the Lions. So there's some guys that I could see like being upgrades for like some of these secondary needy teams. NFC North, Minnesota. I feel like they should upgrade probably the interior of the line. We talked about players that I think could help them. I think that someone like Kevin Dotson or Jonah Jackson, I don't know if the Lions would trade in division. James Daniels from Pittsburgh could help them. Green Bay, it's receiver. We talked about the names already. Chicago's going to be a seller. We talked about names for them already. The Lions are going to be a seller. I mentioned some names for them as well. The South, Atlanta's amazingly in first place. I think their defense is terrible. So I could see them going after a pass rusher. We go with their star defensive tackle, Grady Jarrett. So somebody that I think could help them could be somebody like Draymond Jones of Denver. They could have had Robert Quinn, but I don't think they were willing to give up the price. I don't think Brian Burns is going anywhere from Carolina. Deshaun Williams from Denver. Travis Gibson from Chicago. So there's some options there for them. Carolina, I think, is going to stay put and continue to try to trade people like DJ Moore. I don't think they're going to trade Jeremy Chin or Brian Burns. Tampa Bay's not going to do anything. But if they wanted to upgrade a position, it's probably at center. Obviously, they lost their center for the year, Ryan Jensen. But would they go after somebody like Lloyd Cushenberry from Denver or Mason Cole from Pittsburgh or something like that? Bradley Bozeman, if he were to become available, but I don't know if the Panthers would trade in division. And then New Orleans, they looked excellent against the Raiders. And their roster is pretty good. But I don't like their front seven a lot outside of a couple guys. So would they, potentially go for one of those guys I mentioned earlier, like Christian Harris or something like that? And then the NFC West, Seattle. That's just amazing what they're doing. I talked about potential names where they could upgrade on the interior offensive line. I think their pass rush is a little vulnerable as well. Although that home crowd pretty much helped them yesterday. And going up against a lesser cornerback and Daniel Jones probably helped too. And a banged up offensive line. So I don't know what they're going to potentially upgrade at if they were to do that. We have the 49ers who look like the team to beat in that division. They made their move already with Christian McCaffrey. I feel like if they were to upgrade elsewhere, it would be in the front seven because of injuries. I know I keep mentioning players from Houston and all these bad teams, but would somebody like Christian Kirksey help the Niners, or somebody would the Jaguars trade somebody like Josh Allen on the outside of the front seven? So that'd be interesting. Rams, they look like the team that just doesn't have it. They look like the year from hell team. For me, them and the Chargers, with the Chargers more sort of injury, and then the Rams is just a big fat Super Bowl hangover. Interesting to see what the Rams do. It's obviously they need help at wide receiver. Went over those names already. And then, last but not least, the Arizona Cardinals. They made their move for Robbie Anderson after Marquise Brown was lost for the season. But I think that they can use some upgrades on the defensive side of the ball. We mentioned those names already. All right. We'll do more trade deadline talk on tomorrow's podcast. Obviously, now we'll do news and notes. So we'll start with the NFL. A.J. Brown has a drug test as he finds the timing of his random drug test very interesting after his 3-touchdown game. He was just amazing yesterday. Ex-referee Terry McAulay says that DJ Moore shouldn't have been flagged after his Hail Mary yesterday for his celebration. That cost them the win. It really did. A lot of injuries yesterday. Christian Watson ruled out yesterday against the Bills with a concussion. Cooper Kupp injured his ankle, apparently. That's what Sean McVay certainly thinks. Darren Waller sat out against the Saints. Eagles' first-round pick, Jordan Davis, has a high ankle sprain. Will be out 4 to 6 weeks. That's a big loss for them. Maybe they upgrade that position from a depth standpoint. James Conner didn't play against the Vikings. Deebo Samuel did not play, and the Niners still found the way to win. Jamar Chase avoids injury reserve. So that's good news. Shaq Barrett tore his Achilles and will be out the rest of the season. Brutal news for the Buccaneers. Maybe that's a position they upgrade at in the front seven. I didn't even think of that. We talked about how the Bills called the Saints regarding Alvin Kamara. And the Saints want a haul for him. The Browns are willing to trade Kareem Hunt. We talked about that already. Texans opened the trading Brandon Cooks. Possible destinations: Giants, Rams, and Vikings. And the Vikings are interesting because, to me, they're set at wide receiver, I feel like. And they really don't need any wide receivers. Unless they're trying for insurance or something. Steelers likely keeping Chase Claypool. That's interesting. Giants tight end Bellinger has eye surgery and will be back in a 2 to 6 week time span. And then we'll talk a little college football. Arch Manning enrolling early as he decided to join the Longhorns in January over staying to defend his school's state basketball title. That's very interesting. There was a big fight in the tunnel after the Michigan State game. Jim Harbaugh says that 2 Michigan players were assaulted in a tunnel fight after the game. And then Mel Tucker swung at a fan who attempted to touch him after the game. And the Spartans punish Atavion Brown, Carrie Crump, Angelo Gross, and Zion Young for the post-game tunnel fight against Michigan. And then the Michigan fans were singing Mr. Brightside by The Killers, so that was pretty cool after the win. USC athletic director Mike Bone ripped the Pac-12 officiating after the win against Arizona. San Jose State honors their late player, the late teammate, Camden McWright, as they had a moment of loudness to celebrate his memory as they returned to action on Saturday. We'll talk baseball a little bit. Rob Manfred predicts A's to Vegas as he says no longer optimistic A's will remain in Oakland. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen. So that's interesting. Nolan Arenado opting in to play out the 5 years and $144 million remaining on his contract. So that's really interesting. I just think he wants to stay with the Cardinals. Dodgers keeping an eye on Carlos Correa. That's really interesting. And the Royals have a new manager. It is Matt Quatraro, who was the bench coach for Rays manager Kevin Cash. So that's an interesting hire. We'll see how that works out. We'll go to basketball now. Miles Turner talks LA rumors, as he said on Woj's show, that the Lakers should take a very hard look at a deal with Indy. That's a trade I predicted before the season, that he would end up in LA. Russell Westbrook will come off the bench for the foreseeable future, barring Anthony Davis needing to sit out. Spurs waive lottery pick Josh Primo as he announces he's focusing on mental health after being waived by the Spurs. And then it was reported that Primo exposed himself, as Spurs' decision to release Primo stemmed from multiple alleged instances of him exposing himself to women. Oof. Pistons extend Bojan Bogdanovic 2 years, $39.1 million. So it looks like they're not going to trade him at the deadline. The Pistons are trying to win. They traded for him not to trade him again. They traded for him to improve their team. And they doubled down with the contract extension. The NBA denounces a hate speech as the league releases a statement condemning hate speech. And as Kyrie Irving receives backlash for his recent tweets. And then he went at it with the reporter asking about his recent posts on social media. Yikes. And then the Nets held a players-only meeting. As Ben Simmons says, the team had an honest and open conversation after falling to 1-5. And more baseball that we didn't talk about is that the Astros used an illegal bat on the other night as Martin Maldonado used a bat from Albert Pujols that violated the league rules in Game 1. And as he has switched bats. Wow. A Philly TV reporter roasts Astro fans as he says, more excitement at a middle school volleyball game. Yikes. And then there's the viral Philly kid that's been being shown on social media. He made an epic move. After tripping Astro fans on Friday night, the young fan took a 6 a.m. flight from Houston today to make his Pop Warner game, which is pretty awesome. Zion came back yesterday against the Clippers after missing a couple games with a hip injury. DeAndre 8 and out a week after a left ankle sprain. And the NBA wants a salary cap as they're proposing a hard limit that teams cannot exceed, with Warriors, Nets, and Clippers running up payrolls. Oof. Jake Paul beated Anderson Silva via unanimous decision to stay undefeated. That's not surprising. That was a big deal from the weekend. USMNT midfielder McKinney out for a couple weeks with an injury sustained for Juventus on Saturday. It was a quad injury, so we'll see how that ends up if he's back in time. Miami expects to sign Messi as the MLS club has increasing confidence that they could sign Leo when his PSG contract expires next summer. That would be some addition to that team. And the XFL unveils 8 teams and logos. And among them are the San Antonio Brahmas. They are coached, or will be coached, by Hines Ward at the Alamo Dome. We have the Arlington Renegades, coached by Bob Stoops. The DC Defenders, coached by Reggie Barlow. The Houston Roughnecks, coached by Wade Phillips. The Orlando Guardians, coached by Terrell Buckley. The Seattle Sea Dragons, coached by Jim Haslett. The Seattle Battlehawks, coached by Anthony Beck. And the Vegas Vipers, coached by Rod Woodson. So that's interesting. And then some hockey news is that Carolina trades Ethan Beard to the Canucks in exchange for a prospect and a draft pick. So the Canucks making the move for the defenseman after they get off to a slow start from the season. All right, best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. Interesting games on the board, but I knew from the other day of where I wanted to go. And that is, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals minus the 3.5 against the Browns. I'm going to lay a half unit on it. I low-key regret not putting this in the Fab 5. But that's okay. I think that this could be a winner for best bet. So I'm going to lay the 3.5 with the Bengals in Cleveland against the Browns. Alrighty, so that's it for the show. We'll be back tomorrow recapping Monday Night Football. We'll talk more NFL trade deadline. We'll do NFL power rankings, college football playoff rankings are unveiled tomorrow night, so I'll make my picks for the top 25 of that. So, should be an interesting show tomorrow, to say the least. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.